Welcome to LauraBaggett.com. My name is Laura Baggett, and my goal is to help you become the hero in your homeschool by giving you the tools, confidence, and motivation for teaching math to your children. Today we're going to talk about multiplying fractions. Now, fractions tend to bother a lot of people and seem to give them a lot of trouble, but I believe they are easier to understand than you may think. So hopefully today I can help to simplify that a little bit. Let's talk about multiplication that we may be more familiar with, just integer multiplication. 3 times 4. Now, we all know that the answer to that is going to be 12, but let's think about what that really means. 3 times 4 can be thought of as 3 groups of 4 or 3 of 4. So for example, I could draw 3 groups of 4 stars. And that again would represent 3 groups of 4. And sure enough, there are 12 stars. Not too hard, right? Now let's apply that to some fractions. What if we had 1/2 times 4? Well, again, we can think of that as a half group of 4 or 1/2 of 4. So again, if we start with 4 items, then half of that is going to be 2. So we know that half of 4, or 1/2 times 4, is going to be equal to 2. What about if both numbers are fractions? What if we have 1/2 times 1/6? Well, again, we can think of that as 1/2 of 1/6. Let's start with a circle that can represent a pizza or a pie or something like that. And to get our 1/6, let's start by dividing this into 6 equal slices, or 6 somewhat equal slices based on my drawing there. So each one of these represents 1/6 of the whole thing. Okay. Now to get half of that, we're going to have to divide again. So if we divide each of our slices, then now we can talk about this, for example, would represent 1/2 of 1/6. So what proportion would that be? Well, if we look at all of the slices we now have, let's see, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We've got 12 slices of pizza now, because we started out with 6 slices, divided each of those into 2 slices, so now we have 12 slices. And that one shaded in part that represents a half of 1/6 is going to be 1/12. So we would expect that 1/2 times 1/6 is going to be equal to 1/12. Let's take it just a bit further. Suppose we have 3/4 times 1/6, or 3/4 of 1/6. Well, again, we can start in the same way, dividing into 6 equal slices. Okay. And then now we want to divide each of those slices. We need 3/4 of one of those slices. So let's see what that's going to look like up here. If this is the slice that we're working on, we could divide it into half and then divide each of those halves again. And so we've got 4 slices out of that 1/6, that one large piece. So each one of those represents 1/4 of 1/6, right? So one slice here is 1/4 of 1/6. So if we want 3/4, we're going to need 3 of these slices shaded in. Okay, well, we can picture that, but what does that mean for our pizza as a whole? Well, again, if we took each of these slices and divided it into 4 pieces, okay, then let's see how many pieces we've got going all the way around. Change colors here. Well, we talked about this slice divided into 4 more. We would take this, divide it into 4 more slices, so forth. So each of our large slices we could divide into 4 smaller slices, and adding those all up, 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4, we get 24 of those little sliver slices. Okay, so the whole thing would be divided into 24 slices, and 3 of those is what we have shaded in there in orange. Okay, so we end up with 3 out of the 24 slices. Now, of course, we can reduce that down to 1/8, and we can talk about reducing fractions to lowest terms in a different video. But for now, we just want to know that we can get to 3/24, and yes, reduce that to 1/8. So that is demonstrating what's going on kind of behind the scenes in multiplication of fractions. But obviously, we don't want to have to draw a picture every time we multiply fractions. So let's look at kind of a shortcut way of doing this. If we have 1/2 times 4, let's write that as 1/2 times, and now sometimes you'll see the x used, and sometimes as you get higher up into algebra, you'll see a dot used for multiplication. So I may use either one interchangeably. I'm kind of more accustomed to the dot, but I didn't want you to be confused. Whoops, excuse me. Let me erase that little bit there. That should be 4/1. Whoops. 4/1. Okay, and then the way we multiply fractions together is we multiply the numerators together, so 1 times 4, and then we multiply the denominators together, so that's going to give us 2 times 1. Well, 1 times 4 is 4, 2 times 1 is equal to 2, and of course we know that 4 divided by 2 is equal to 2. And if you remember on our earlier slide back over here, we got that 1/2 of 4 was equal to 2. We had 2 stars in each group. Continuing to the next one, 1/2 times 1/6. Again, we multiply the numerators together. Numerators is a fancy word for the top part. We multiply the denominators, which just means the bottom parts. 1 times 1 equals 1. 2 times 6 is equal to 12. And there's 1/12. And sure enough, that was the answer that we got when we worked this problem earlier. Now the last one we expected to get 3/24 or 1/8. So let's see how that works out for us. So 3/4 multiplied by 1/6. Same procedure. We multiply the numerators together and we multiply the denominators together. 3 times 1 is 3, 4 times 6 is 24, and then that reduces down to 1/8. So we got the right answer. Now one thing to think about, remember when we went from 1/6 up here and we divided each large slice into 2 more slices, and we ended up with 12, because for every one of those 6 slices, it became 2 more. So this 2 times 6, that's where that denominator of 12 comes from in our final answer, because we ended up with 12 total pieces. Same thing with the bottom example. We started out with 6 slices, made 4 new tiny slices out of each of the original big slices, and we had 24 total, 6 times 4, or 4 out of every 6. So that's where that denominator of 24 is coming from. So this is the procedure that you're probably familiar with, but I wanted you to see why it works, and hopefully seeing those pictures earlier helped. So thank you for joining me for this presentation from laurabaggett.com. I hope you'll join me from future videos of this type. My goal is to help you conquer that math anxiety so that you will feel free and confident in teaching math to your children. Bye!